I thought he was a monster. I thought he was my captor. But as Lucas Choi took a bullet meant for me, I realized the terrifying truth. The most dangerous man in the city would rather die than see me hurt. That night, amidst the fire and blood, our war ended, and something much more dangerous began. Because once you've been kissed by a man like Lucas, you don't just want to be saved. You want to be his. And tonight, I'm finding out exactly what it means to belong to the king of the underworld. Subscribe now for more mafia romance stories with shocking twists, forbidden love, and cinematic drama. The world was screaming, but all I could hear was the ragged breath of the man in my arms. Lucas Choi, the ruthless king of the city, was pale. His blood was warm and thick on my hands, soaking into my clothes. My heart felt like it was breaking into 1,000 pieces. I looked at his face, usually so hard and scary, and all I saw was a man who had given everything to keep me safe. "Lucas, stay with me. Don't you dare close your eyes," I sobbed. My voice was high and shaking. I held him tight, trying to stop the red flow with my fingers. Just a moment ago, he had been a giant, a man everyone feared. Now he was small and quiet in the middle of the chaos. The guards rushed us into a hidden medical wing of the mansion. The doors were heavy steel, and inside it looked like a secret hospital. The lights were too bright, and the air smelled like medicine. I refused to let go of his hand. Even as the doctors pushed me back and began to cut away his expensive shirt, I fought to stay near him. I didn't care about the rules anymore. He had saved my life. He had treated my body as something more precious than his own. Hours passed like years. I sat on a cold plastic chair, staring at the red stains on my skin. My mind kept replaying the sound of the gunshot. Finally, a doctor walked out. He looked tired but gave me a small nod. "The bullet missed his heart by an inch. He is awake. He is asking for you, Aria." I ran into the room. Lucas was hooked up to machines, but his dark eyes were sharp and focused. When he saw me, he reached out a shaky, tattooed hand. I grabbed it and pressed it to my lips, my tears falling onto his scarred knuckles. "Why did you do it?" I whispered. "Why would you take a bullet for me?" "Because you are the only thing in this world that is pure, Aria," he rasped. His voice was low and dry, but it was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. "I couldn't let them touch you." In that moment, the fear died. I leaned down and kissed him. It wasn't like the first kiss we had shared when I was his prisoner. This was deep, hungry, and full of a new, burning need. His hand moved to the back of my neck, fingers sliding into my hair to pull me closer. The machines began to beat faster as our hearts raced together. We weren't just survivor and captor anymore. We were fire and gasoline, ready to burn the whole world down together. 3 days later, Lucas was back in his massive master suite. He was still in pain, but he refused to stay in the medical wing another second. He was a man who hated being weak, and he wanted me by his side, away from the doctors and the smell of medicine. The room was dim, filled with the scent of his expensive cologne and the warm glow of the fireplace. "Come here, Aria," he said. His voice was a low, dark velvet that made my heart race. I walked over to the edge of the large bed. He was shirtless, and the white bandages around his chest looked bright against his tanned skin and the black ink of his tattoos. Even wounded, he looked like a powerful god. Before I could speak, he reached out and grabbed my waist, pulling me firmly between his legs. "I missed your scent," he whispered. He buried his face in the side of my neck, breathing me in as if I were the only thing keeping him alive. His touch sent shivers down my spine. I was an Ethiopian girl who had always been reserved and quiet, but with him, I felt a new wildness waking up inside me. I ran my fingers over the dark ink on his muscular arms, tracing the dragons and symbols of his dangerous world. "I'm yours now, aren't I?" I asked softly. He looked up at me, his eyes dark with a hunger that burned. "You were mine the moment I saw you, Aria. Now the whole world knows it, and tonight I'm going to show you exactly what that means." He pulled me down onto the cool silk sheets. His kiss was a command, deep and tasting of expensive whiskey and raw power. Every time his skin brushed mine, it felt like an electric shock. The room was silent except for our heavy breathing. That night, the bond between us became something that could never be broken. As the weeks passed, Lucas's recovery became a game of pleasure. He joked that he needed a special kind of therapy, and that therapy always involved me. We stayed hidden in his private wing, far away from the guards and the noise of the city. It felt like we were the only two people left on Earth. He loved to watch me. He would sit in a velvet chair while I got dressed, his eyes tracing every curve of my body with a look of pure possession. He bought me the finest silk dresses in deep reds and golds, but he told me he loved it even more when I wore nothing at all. "You are so beautiful, Aria," he whispered one evening. We were in his massive marble bathtub, the warm water covered in soft, red rose petals. He pulled me back against his hard chest. I could feel the strength of his muscles and the heat of his skin against my back. His hands were large and scarred from his life as a boss, but they were so gentle as they washed my skin. "I never thought I could feel like this," I confessed, leaning my head back against his shoulder. "I thought my life would always be boring and quiet." "With me, your life will never be quiet," he said, his lips brushing against my skin. "It will be gold and silk and fire. I will give you everything you ever dreamed of and things you never even knew you wanted." He turned me around in the water, his dark eyes searching mine. The feeling between us was so intense it almost hurt. When he kissed me this time, it felt like he was claiming my very soul, and I knew I would never want to be anywhere else. The war outside was finally fading, but the tension inside the mansion was rising to a breaking point. Lucas was becoming more possessive every day. He didn't like it when the guards looked at me, and he hated it when I was out of his sight for even a minute. One night, we had a small argument in his office. I wanted to go for a walk in the garden alone just to clear my head. "No," he said, his voice turning cold and sharp. "It's not safe for you out there. You have 50 guards around this house, Lucas. I just want to breathe for a moment," I shouted back. He moved faster than I could blink. He grabbed my arm and pulled me flush against his hard chest. His face was inches from mine, his eyes burning with a dark fire. "You don't understand," he rasped. "If I lose you, I lose my mind. You are my heart, Aria. I won't let anything happen to you." The anger in his eyes suddenly turned into something else. Passion. He kissed me hard, his lips almost bruising mine as he claimed me once again. He carried me over to the large desk in the center of the room, sweeping all his important papers onto the floor with one hand. "You are mine," he growled against my skin. "I know," I breathed, wrapping my legs around his waist and pulling him closer. The danger of his world only made our connection feel more explosive. Every touch was a reminder that we were still alive, and every moment we spent together was a celebration of our survival. To celebrate his full recovery, Lucas threw a private party. Only his most loyal men and their wives were invited. He wanted to officially introduce me to his world as his queen. I wore a gold dress that clung to my mahogany skin like a second layer. When I walked down the grand stairs, the entire room went silent. Lucas was waiting at the bottom, looking lethal and handsome in a custom black suit. He took my hand and kissed my knuckles, his eyes never leaving mine. "You look dangerous tonight, Aria." "I learned from the best," I smiled, feeling a rush of power. Throughout the night, he never let me go. His hand was always on the small of my back or resting possessively on my thigh. He whispered things in my ear that made me blush deep red, making promises of exactly what he would do to me once the guests finally left. We danced slowly to the low, romantic music. For a moment, I forgot about the guns, the tattoos, and the blood. I was just a woman in love with a man who would burn the whole city down just to see me smile. But as the night ended, a secret was revealed. Kenji, his lead guard, pulled Lucas aside. I watched from across the room as Lucas's face turned to stone. The secret was about my mother. Lucas had finally found her. She hadn't died in a car crash all those years ago like I was told. She had been stolen and hidden away by his rivals to keep my father under their thumb. "I'm taking you to her right now," Lucas told me, his voice soft but firm. We drove in silence to a small, luxury villa hidden by the coast. When the door opened and I saw her face, I fell to my knees. We cried for hours, holding each other as if we were in a dream. Lucas stood by the door the entire time, watching over us like a silent, powerful guardian. That night back at the mansion, I went to find him. He was standing on the balcony, looking out at the lights of the city. I walked up and hugged him from behind, pressing my face against his back. "Thank you," I whispered. "You gave me back my life." He turned around and picked me up effortlessly, carrying me toward the bed. "I didn't give you your life, Aria. You gave me mine. Before you, I was just a ghost in a suit. Now I finally have a reason to stay alive." The love we made that night was different. It wasn't just heat and passion. It was deep, emotional healing. We moved together in a slow, beautiful rhythm, our bodies and souls intertwining until we didn't know where one ended and the other began. In his arms, I was finally home. As the days turned into months, our bond only grew stronger. Lucas was no longer just my protector. He became my teacher. He wanted me to be strong enough to stand by his side in his dangerous world. He taught me how to handle a weapon, how to spot a lie in a man's eyes, and how to walk into a room and command everyone's attention. "If you're going to be my queen, you must be a lioness, Aria," he said, his voice full of pride. We spent many hours at his private shooting range. He would stand close behind me, his large hands over mine, helping me aim at the target. The heat of his tattooed body against my back was a constant distraction, but I learned fast. I wanted to be worthy of the man who had bled for me. One afternoon, we took a break from training and sat on the soft grass. The sun was setting, painting the sky in beautiful shades of orange and purple. Everything felt peaceful for once. "Do you ever regret it?" I asked softly, looking at him. "Taking me that first night?" He looked at me with a look of pure devotion, his dark eyes softening in a way they only did for me. "My only regret is that I didn't find you sooner, Aria. I wasted 46 years of my life waiting for a woman like you." He leaned in and kissed me. It was a soft, lingering kiss that tasted like forever. We stayed there on the grass until the stars came out, talking about our future. It was a future where we weren't just a mafia boss and his captive, but two people building a real life together. The climax of our romance came during a secret trip to his private island. It was a paradise of white sand and clear blue water. For the first time, there were no guards, no ringing phones, and no war to worry about. It was just us. We spent our days swimming in the warm ocean and our nights exploring each other's hearts and bodies. One evening, Lucas set up a beautiful dinner right on the beach. There were hundreds of candles everywhere, their flames flickering in the gentle sea breeze. The sound of the waves was the only music we needed. "Aria," he said, suddenly standing up and taking a small velvet box from his pocket. My heart stopped beating for a second. He walked over and knelt in the soft sand, his black tattoos gleaming in the golden candlelight. He looked so powerful, yet so vulnerable. "I've lived a life of violence and shadows for a long time," he said, his voice deep and steady. "But you brought the light back into my soul. Will you stay with me forever? Will you be my wife?" I didn't even have to think about my answer. "Yes, 1,000 times yes," I cried out. He slipped a massive, sparkling diamond onto my finger and pulled me into a kiss that tasted like salt and pure joy. That night on the beach, under the bright light of the full moon, we celebrated our engagement in the most vivid and passionate way possible. The ocean waves were the only witnesses to the love we shared. The story ends with us back at the grand mansion, but everything feels different now. The days when I was just a scared girl in a kidnapping are a distant memory. I am no longer a prisoner or a secret. I am now Mrs. Choi, the woman who stands equal to the most powerful man in the city. The halls of the house no longer feel cold. They feel like home. I sit at the head of the long table during the important business meetings, and Lucas sits right beside me. We are a team now. We are a powerhouse that no one dares to challenge. The whole city knows the new rules. To touch me is to invite the terrible wrath of Lucas, and to touch Lucas is to face me. I have learned to be just as sharp and just as bold as the man I love. As the sun sets over the city, we walk into our master bedroom together. This is the same room where it all began, where I first woke up wondering whose blood was on the sheets. Lucas closes the heavy door behind us and turns the lock with a click that echoes in the quiet room. He looks at me with that same dark hunger, and that same burning fire in his eyes that first stole my breath away. "Ready, my queen?" he asks, his voice dropping to a low, sexy growl. "Always," I reply, stepping into his strong, tattooed arms. The forbidden kiss we shared months ago had started a war that almost burned everything down, but it ended in a kingdom built just for us. We were no longer just characters caught in a dangerous story. We were the authors of our own destiny, writing a future full of gold, silk, and a love that never ends. I lean up and press my lips to his, feeling the heat of his skin against mine. "I love you, Lucas." He pulls me closer, his grip possessive and warm. "I love you more, Aria, always and forever." If you want to see if Aria and Lucas can keep their kingdom safe from new enemies, type Part 3 in the comments right now. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter of their dark romance.